so I guess we should say our names. So I'm Grace Oseen.
And I am Sarah Jorgensen.
Perfect. So, all right. So the first question: what doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to advocate, and why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart to be passionate and persistent?
I put I feel I hope these are right. I feel like when I was watching it, I was like, this is my opinion about why I thought. I don't know, because he kind of was just like, he had a personal, not really a personal experience, but he was just like really involved in like learning about like the slave trade and everything like that, and he took time to like actually like see the ships and build that box so he could see their like actual like space and living quarters. I just felt like he saw a need, and then he did the research, I guess you could say, that then further just helped it move along. And that's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah, no, that's
oh, look a baby! Hi.
Yeah, she's trying to say hi. So one thing I put was that the doctrine that drove him to advocate in the first place was he believed in the sanctity of life, and that he believed that God created human beings to be equal, and like you said about his drive and how persistent he was and all the research he did. I think that that's important when it comes to the doctrine of the family, because if we don't have the drive and if we don't do all the research about the attacks on the family, we're not going to have the will to be as persistent and work as hard towards our end goal. So I think you're right on. Are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, why not? Bring it on.
All right. So how did Wilbur employ a theoretical approach to become a more effective advocate? Identify at least one thing in each system and be specific.
This is like the community and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, maybe I wasn't sure how much we were allowed to like research back out and other things because it was our like final. So I was like, well, I don't want to. I think this is the community and everything, but it's like the family, community, and like society, right? Okay, good. That's what I wrote about. Okay, I'm so glad. Did you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
So this was kind of hard for me just because I know, I guess, what the theoretical approach is, but I still don't really understand it, so I don't know. Hopefully I put down some things.
I'm with you. I'm like, I hope I'm doing this right.
Yeah. So in the microsystem, I put, some things that he used in the microsystem that helped him become a better advocate was his peer group, because he had these really close friends in his peer group, such as, the guy who was the prime minister, and they all helped to work or to spread the information about the slave trade, and his family helped him better himself, which in turn helps him become a better advocate for the value of life, because he became a better person. He became even better once he got married and had children. And in the community part, I don't feel like I had a ton that related to the slave trade, but he fed the beggars. He believed that people should be treated justly. And then in the mesosystem, I don't quite understand the mesosystem, but I put the approach he used was between his peer group and the community. He used the people in his group of friends to spread the word to those in the community. With the help of his friends, he was able to get people in the community to sign his petition. and he sent out writings about his beliefs, and people in the area read those. And part of the mental system that helped him was the media. So the media, then was obviously different. It was more, books and newspapers and things like that. And so he had all these articles, and his wife, when she was younger, she read those, and it changed her beliefs, and then in turn she convinced her friends to believe that way as well. An example of the exosystem, I thought that would be the slave trade, because it's something that he didn't actively, he didn't experience it firsthand, but it still affected him. So, he wasn't a slave. He didn't work on the slave boats or anything like that. But it affected him because, he became an advocate for the people that were slaves. And he formed a new peer group based on those who were for the abolition of the slave trade, and it changed his view of the community when he saw slavery up close, like when he was gambling with the guy who offered to pay with his coach driver. In the macro system, I just put that he was, an upper class individual. He was very wealthy. He was a politician who was opposed to slave trade. He was a person who wanted to do the work of God while working in politics, and religion was very important to those people. Then in the chrono system, I just put in the movie, the War with America had an impact on the way the government was run, and it created a barrier when trying to stop the slave trade. And the Great Depression also had an impact because it changed the economy then, which created some people's views on slavery and why they thought they needed slavery because of the economy and how they thought it helped the economy. So, yeah, those are mine.
Wow, that was very good. Mine's not nearly as in-depth as that. With the family situation, I with the same with you is I just talked mainly about not family, more about his friends, because it wasn't until later on that he got married and had children. So I felt his more of that was with his friends and actual families, what I'm focused on. And with the community, I also agreed with you. It was more there wasn't. I felt like it was purely friends and purely government. There wasn't a ton of middlemen of community involvement. But that did coincide with the government aspects of everything. With the petitions and stuff like that. I guess that was my example for the community, because that's their way of social media then, was going out, and I don't know, it was a crazy number of people that he got on the petition. I was just really impressed. I don't know how much of it is true or whatever, but I was wow, that's amazing that could happen without social media. And so that's what my example was with the community, at least, was with that petition and he went out and delivered those speeches to the community, and was just an advocate. So he directly talked to the community, and I guess that's what I'm trying to say is his involvement with the community is he more would just go out and petition, or he would go out and give speeches, or do whatever. But then the government, hold on, let me scroll down. It seemed really harsh when he was in those meetings. I don't know what they were called, but the where they were trying to pass certain laws, the majority ruled against him. He didn't, they were no, our social, our economic system will crumble if we get rid of slaves, because they do so much, and we can't do that. And he was just an advocate for life, and treating people like people, that he stood against them and still persisted year after year in trying to pass this law to help out the slave trade. Let's see. And I think I got everything. Because, yeah, most of my stuff is obviously because we watched the same movie. But, yeah, so that is what I have. So, yeah, I guess we can move on to 3.
Sweet.
I thought, what's her face? I just checked the email because my email thing went off.
Yeah.
I guess she's still. I don't know. I thought she would email us.
I know. She hasn't emailed back for a couple days, so I wasn't, or not for a couple days, but like 2 days, and so I'm hoping.
Yeah. No, I like heard my thing chime, but it was just another email.
Yeah. I think I got the same email because I heard mine chime as well.
Oh. Oh, you moved locations. I was up on my Word document, so I didn't have you pulled up. That's funny. Okay.
All right. So, okay. How did Wilbur and his fellow advocates do and share their research, and what evidence did they provide to persuade those opposing or on the fence?
Hold on. Okay. So I can start with this one. Well, I talked about it earlier with what I said in question number 1. So question number 3, I thought I was just more a lot with question number 1 and how I went with it. But they did their research on like, they actually had someone that traveled on the boat that came and like spoke to them and was like, this is exactly what happens. And so then he took that information and further researched out. Like he built that box to see exactly how much space they had on the boats. He went to the boats and he looked at the boats. He brought other people to the boats to get their reactions for it. What else did he? And like that's how I can say, like I said, it's a lot of what I said in question number 1. But and then he had those like special meetings. I forgot what they were called. That helped inform people about it too. That only started out with like 6 people, but slowly were able to get a little bit bigger, and people were able to help out. And then that's how he persuaded people on the opposing or kind of on the fence. I thought that was like a good idea what he did. He like threw a party for those people on the boat essentially, but he was like, but really why we're here is so you can understand how terrible the situation is on the slave trade boats and how like that there, and he had like numbers, like he had facts of like 800 of them were on the boat, but only 200 of them were actually sold, saying that's how many died on the boat, and that's what you're smelling is the death. And so he actually had like stats and he had numbers that he could give people, and he wasn't afraid to give out all of his information that he knew.
Yeah, perfect. So, like you said, they did the research by talking to people who had been slaves, especially the guy who was in the group. And they also talked to people who had been a part of the slave trade, like like his friend John, the really old guy who had worked a worker in the slave trade, and he really regretted doing that. They shared the research by giving practical demonstrations. You know,
I think I lost you. You froze.
boat. Let's see. So they share actual research and stories from those they knew who had taken part in some way in the slave trade. They had a petition made and signed by a lot of people to show to the House as proof that some people were. The Prime Minister, he went to really get people's held meetings and just doing a boring, but got people's attention by doing it a way that would really make them listen. So I thought that was, kind of a good way to persuade them. So the next question is, how does the film portray the importance of working together as a group, and what has family advocacy group work taught you?
Let's see. Do you want me to go? I can go again if you want. I don't.
Sure.
So what I put is because he had, it's like throughout the film I put that it's like he had, sometimes he had a really strong support group and other times not so much. And he really struggled when he didn't have that support group, when like a friend or whatever. I'm terrible with names. I should have written, like, I didn't write down anybody's names because I was like, I don't remember. I'm like, I kept on calling his friend Khan the entire movie because he plays Khan on Star Trek. And so I was like, Khan is doing this. And it's like, there was a time when he like completely wasn't like doing stuff with him because he was doing his own thing. And when he didn't have such a strong support group, he didn't necessarily struggle. Part of it helped him push further and like get more people, but at the same time it did hinder him because he didn't have the support group. So the importance of working together really got things were able to be accomplished better when he had a support group. And so then working in a group, I guess, has taught me, for the second part of the question, is, just like, you're going to support something, like, support it. Don't be, like, half-hearted about it, especially if you're going to be an advocate for something that you need to be in or not. Like, it's like with our religion. It's like, you're in our religion or you're not. Like, there's none of this, like, oh, I'm going to support everything except this one thing I'm not okay with. And, it's the same thing. Oh, she's adorable. I keep on getting out of my word thing, and then I, like, see you again. And so mine was just kind of like, it taught me, it's like, you need to do your research. You need to decide if you're going to be in or out. None of this, like, gray stuff, because you have to be sure of what you're doing if you're going to be an advocate for something. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I had, Wilbur couldn't have done everything on his own. In the beginning, he was reading about the slave trade and researching it, but he was on his own. He almost gave up, but members of a group that were there to support him. No one else in the house would show their support. And, they were open about it. I think a lot of people in the house were, even if they agreed with him, they were too afraid to show that they agreed. But the people that he was in the group with, they weren't afraid to, say, yeah, I support you and I agree with you. They helped him get all of the help. The ability to give the practical demonstrations, because the African in the group was the one who showed him the boat. And the guy with the long hair in the group, he was the one who showed him the chains and gave him the dimension where they, were kept on the boat. Working together as a group gave the movement a much bigger voice than working by himself would have done. And there were a lot of good ideas that came from others in the group that hadn't come from Wilbur, and without them the ideas wouldn't have made it as far. And Wilbur was really talented in speaking, and so he was able to be the voice of the group and get their ideas and their research out there. And the family advocacy group work has taught me that when there are multiple people together for a common cause, the word and our cause can get out there so much farther. And weaknesses, and the group can use those to their advantage. To have more connections. To stay alone.
Oh, okay, now I can hear you. You like blacked out for like a minute. No, it's fine.
So I'm just saying, a group gives a person emotional support. Because if you think you're alone, it's going to be hard to stand up for what you believe in, and so having a group with people that support you and each other and have the same beliefs, it's easier to stand up and have the courage to say what you believe in. So the next question is, what parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni in Alma 46? And what is a Christian and professional family advocate? And how did Wilbur exemplify that? And how can you be effective in Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices? So I can start. One parallel that I saw between Captain Moroni and Wilbur is that they were both very vocal about what they were standing up for, and they weren't afraid of standing their ground and standing up for what was right, even though a lot of other people disagreed. Like Wilbur would voice his thoughts and opinions, with members of the parliament, and would have lots of people just sitting there yelling. He stood his ground, back down. So communities about what they were standing up for, so that they could spread the word. They fought for religion, just as Wilbur fought to end the slave trade. And there was, flag inside in Moroni's case, and I think there was, coming from those who were in favor to deceive us. So Wilbur was gambling with in the beginning, tried to point.
Are you still there?
One of the men opposing sides African actually. Well, I obviously thought that people thought that, then he persuaded to end this. And they both used object lessons. He used that, and Wilbur used the chains and the boxes that were the size of, the slaves' quarters and the actual boat that slaves were brought in, and they both used God's help. And then this part of the question, Christian and professional advocate means use and stand without me. Others that was right, but he didn't. He thought differently. And he always used truth, just like we should. He didn't falsify any facts. We can be Christ-like by using love and charity. We can show others that we believe in what we love. And we can be respectful of others' beliefs. In the world today, it seems like people say that if you disagree with one aspect of someone's life or something that they're doing, then you automatically hate them, which we know isn't true, but that's how the media wants people to think, and that's how the world thinks. We can disagree with others without, disliking them or hating them, and we need to be an example to others of how you can lovingly. So, yeah, that's what I have.
Wonderful. So, sorry, your computer is cutting out again towards the beginning, but I was able to catch the very beginning and very end, and what I heard sounded great. So, are you able to hear me okay? It's gone again. Can you hear me?
Now I can. You can see me out as well.
I'm gonna try to see if I can move and see if it's my computer. Hold on really quick. I'm gonna see if I can get a stronger internet connection. Okay, I moved closer. Hopefully that helps out. I don't know if it's whose it is, but we'll try it out. So the parallels that I saw between Captain Moroni and Wilbur were. I'm going to move again. Dad, I'm going to shut this though, okay? Okay, I'm so sorry. There we go. But we'll try it. Okay, so what I saw was like they were both defending what they believed. Like Moroni was defending religion, and Wilbur was defending, protection of the slaves, and that, like Captain Moroni had his flag that he like promoted everything, and then Wilbur had the most like what I was thinking is the most equivalent was his petition was kind of his Moroni's flag that was most equivalent, I thought, was to it. But they both didn't back down for what they believed just because somebody was disagreeing with them. And then the Christian and personal family advocate. And then, so I didn't really understand this question, and I couldn't hear your answer to see how you went with it. Was it saying, like, was he a Christian and a professional, or was it saying which one was he?
It's like, understand it either.
I lost you again. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, now I can.
I'll just sit here. Okay. So I think like, what is your idea of an advocate that acts Christian and professional, and would Wilbur exemplify that? Like.
Oh, got it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So let's see. What's going off of that? Because I wasn't sure, so I didn't really like answer that part, but I can do that now. I thought he very much did both because I mean, he wanted to go like into religion. He wanted to get out of like he wanted to get out what he was doing. He was like, I want to do, like, I want to be full in religion, and so he took both and meshed them together well, but also like wasn't pushy with like religion stuff. Like he brought it in enough, but also, and I mean, I know politics are very different now because if you brought religion in like at all, like people would be like, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing?" And so like, but for that time, religion was still a very like respected thing, I guess you could say. And so he brought it in enough to show that we need to be like equal. Um, and I know he used like, that's how they initially got started is like with his voice. That his voice kind of, I don't know how to word this. But that's like how it all like started, I guess, because he was like, my voice, like that's how I want to portray my message, and sang Amazing Grace to get everyone's attention initially in that first gambling like scene and everything. So I kind of see that as like him pulling his religion into the professional way to, bring everyone's attention. And so then this part I did, I understood this question, so I got the last part of the question is how can we be effective in fighting against such loud and often degrading voices? The first one I thought was just like, is to be understanding towards others' opinion. And I know you mentioned on that too, because there's so many people that there's so many opinions out there, and everybody has different opinions, and everybody says that theirs is right. And so I know everybody, a bunch of people get offended at situations if they don't agree, but to be more Christ-like against these voices that are against us is more to just be understanding. Because we have our opinions on certain things, so I've tried to understand other people's side before I'm like, no, yeah, you are dumb. What you say is dumb. And so I now try to be a bit more understanding, like, they could have just been raised this way, and this is what they believe, and let's see why they believe that. Like, taking the time to listen to them and not just disregard them. Also just like showing and like going along with that is showing respect for what they say. And not, again, like I said, not just like disregarding what they have said. So yes. Okay.
Awesome. All right, so let's see. Number 6. Marcia, or Marcia, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Barlow spoke on persuasive speaking and writing. Did Wilbur exemplify any of her ideas, and how so? So I thought Wilbur used reframing. And can you hear me?
Kind of. It's like really fuzzy.
Oh, darn it. Okay, let's see if I speak closer to the mic. Okay, so Wilbur used reframing. He changed the way that people thought about slavery. So at first, people thought that slavery was something that was okay and it should happen, but he persuaded them to then believe that slavery was brutal and inhumane and horrifying. I thought he also reframed, what people thought about Africans, because at first they thought of them as objects and as less than human, but he began to show them that Africans were human beings, even equal human beings, and they had feelings and emotions and thoughts just like everybody else. And I also thought he used storytelling to persuade others. He was a really good, compelling speaker, and he told a lot of stories in order to get his point across. He also used data, yeah, and he combined the data that he had with storytelling. which made his stories even more powerful. And so, yeah, that's what I got for that question.
Mine is basically the same thing. Like, because it's all on like stories and everything in that. Yeah, like he just was more, yeah, persuasive, and because he didn't like, even as like watching a movie, when he would like tell the stories of like how the children in Africa would die, like he like painted a picture for us. I mean, even though it was a movie, so it was showing it, but the way he described it and everything, and he was like detailed with his when he spoke, so you could kind of be in the situation, and like, you know, these children are dying for no reason at all, or for, what do you say, like these children are dying for like a quarter of cup of like sugar or something, you know, it was something ridiculous, and you're like, wow, like that really is unnecessary and should never happen. And he did a really good job about not just like listing facts or just like handing people papers and saying like, this is how many people agree with me, but he was able to paint a picture for everybody, um, to give them, to help them understand things better.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so
question.
Sweet. So, okay. All right. What role did the government, policy, and religious freedom play in the fight of the slave trade? And did you see the political system as being pro-family? Why or why not? I had a hard time understanding the first part of this question, but
I thought government and policy were like the same thing.
I know. I'm like, I don't. But I did my best anyway, so we'll see how it goes. So I said that the government, you know, obviously played the biggest part in the whole thing. The government was the barrier in trying to end the slave trade. And in order to get his bill passed, he had to appeal to the people in the government. Policy played a part in that the policy had to be changed in order to end slave trade. They used a loophole in, you know, one of the policies to make it so that, oh, I don't remember specific ships or specific places, but you know, the ships, all ships had to be checked and stopped, and that stopped a lot of the slave trade. And then religious freedom played a part in that Wilbur wanted to please God while he was in politics, and he was able to do that. I think that right now, if you say that you're a part of a religion or that you're religious, you are, you know, looked down upon by some other people. But I think there, you know, it was a good time to be able to voice your faith while being in politics. You know, in the beginning, it was a hard time deciding whether to do both. And the lady who came to his house, who was part of the group, she was like, I can kindly assure you that you can do both, and that he should. And I see their political system as being pro-family for some people. You know, if people were white and wealthy, and they were definitely pro-family towards them. You know, considering they didn't even view Africans as people, they weren't pro-family towards them. You know, they tore families apart. You know, children died, and they just, you know, they took family members from each other, and so that was just my opinion on that.
Okay, so with mine, I said more with like government and policy, that they, because again, I had a hard time like deciphering between the two really. So I put that they were not really pro-family, but that religion was pro-family. And that like, I'll talk about policy and religion first, because government, I was just kind of confused. So policy, I felt was more like with the economic side of everything, and going back to like they couldn't, like they said they couldn't get rid of slaves, and they said they couldn't lessen them or anything just because of the whole economic system and how it's like cheap labor and they're able to get things done with them, and all of that kind of stuff. And so I felt with policy it was just a policy, and so most of it just took the aspect of changing people's minds to change the policy to then change the government, because I felt like it was the policy that needed to change and then the government. And I could be like going with this question all wrong, but when I was reading it, I was like, this is what it is to me, and this is how I'm going to answer it. And then with like religion, this was obviously, I said it was like pro-family, and with like Wilbur, because he was wanting to be religious, he was obviously pro-family, and he was wanting to do the will of God. And so that, and I mean, it was able to be portrayed through him, and other obviously religious people. They want to be following God's side or God's ways, and so they were also pro-family. With the government, kind of was just like they're not pro-family, but I'm not really sure why, other than they follow policy. And so I kind of just like, flip-flopped off of policy. So I really didn't have too much for government other than they were not pro-family.
Right.
So, so sorry. Oh my goodness. No, we've been going, I'm glad it's just the two of us. We would have been here for like an hour and a half. It was more than two of us. We still have 4 questions left.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to grab my computer charger really quick.
Okay. She went to go grab her charger. She's right here. You need the charger? No, I just unplugged it. So just taking one thing. There's like 11 questions, but there's like 4 questions within every question. So, okay, back.
All right. So, the next question: do you feel that Wilbur used his time on Earth well? And how did you see him showing the of consecration that Elder Christopherson spoke of? So, first, I said he definitely used. Can you hear me?
Again, it's just a little bit fuzzy. I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's my computer or I don't know. This isn't my computer.
I have no idea.
I've never used this one before, so I don't know if it's this one.
Okay, well, I said he definitely used his time on Earth well. He started a family. He fought for what was right, and he was a man of God, and he used his life to fight for other people's freedom. And the elements of consecration that I saw, the first was work. Obviously we could see that he worked so hard throughout his life, and he put a lot of time and effort into ending the slave trade, and it cost him his health at times. He exemplified service. He fought for the Africans, and he wanted nothing in return. He just wanted to help others. And he gave his life, fighting for other people. And he also showed integrity. He, didn't pretend to be anyone else around different people. He wasn't fake ever, and he was always genuine. Even though a lot of people disagreed with him, he didn't stand up for one thing around his friends and his family and stand up for different things, in the government. He had respect for the physical body. He was sick and he got addicted to the opiates, but once he had his family, he decided that, he wanted to, come clean and get off the opiates and return his physical body to health. And he also spent his leisure time with his family, and I thought that was, cool, because that's the most important thing we can do is spend time with our family and have that quality time with them. So that's just what I had.
Okay, very nice. So, obviously, I agree with you. Um, and I did feel like he used his time well on the earth, because I just feel like I'm repeating everything you're saying, but because I mean, he was a man of God. He took that into his meetings and his speeches, and he wasn't afraid to say anything about religion. He didn't try to hide anything, and who he was who he was. Like, he didn't try to. See, I just feel like I'm repeating everything you're saying because you talked about him not changing between certain people, but it's like, what stood out most to me is like he kept his standards, and he kept. Sorry, I'm like not even showing on the screen. You don't see me. The main thing to me is what was impressive is that gambling game at the very beginning, when it all had just started. Like, he was still very like strong with what he believed, and very persistent, and like he was in front of tons of other men, and he still stood up for what he believed and what was right, and he didn't cave into that peer pressure, or he didn't let himself feel awkward or uncomfortable. He just took what he believed and he stuck with it, and he did that for everything. Like, that was just what they showed and everything, but that's what he did throughout the entire movie. Was what he believed is what he stuck with, and he didn't back down because someone didn't agree with him, or and so that is how I felt he used his time on Earth well, as just sticking to his guns, basically.
Yeah, perfect. So the next question is, any other profound thoughts or personal insights from the movie that are related to child and family advocacy? And I put that one thing that really stuck out to me was courage. I'm definitely someone who needs more courage. It's easy to let other people who have more courage do the vocal work while you sit back and think about what you would do, rather than actually doing it. And I think in order to be a true advocate, especially for the family, we need to show that courage and fight for the things that we know are true. And people are going to be mean. We have disagreeing thoughts, and with the internet today, people hide behind the internet and they say truly awful things to people that they disagree with, and it's easy to let that stop you from voicing your belief. But I think that you have the courage, we'll be able to really help others see the importance of family. So that was just what stuck out to me, was that he had so much courage. And I just thought that was great.
And so mine wasn't profound or anything. It was just a personal insight. But mine was talking more about like hard work. I mean, this like whole thing cost him his like health essentially. But he still was like, he wanted to work hard for what he believed, and because he worked so hard, that's kind of what affected his health and everything. Not saying if we're, that we need to run ourselves to the grave if we truly believe in something, but it was more of just like, I mean, he just put a lot of work into what he did, and a lot of hard work into that research, and meeting people that could help him out more, and just the hard work, just that's mainly what it was, is just like the hard work. So yeah, it wasn't anything profound. It was more of just, I was impressed. And that it does take hard work to stand up for what you believe.
Yeah. All right. So the next one. What was your understanding of the doctrine of the family at the beginning of this semester, and how has it changed? Um, so for me, at the beginning of this semester, um, I knew a lot about the proclamation and what it taught. Um, but because of this class, I think I understand even more about why the things in the proclamation are important. Um, and I can see how the proclamation tells us things that um, are of importance right now. Um, and it's not a brand new document, but it totally just like touches on things that are such a problem right now with the family. Um, and I think I can understand even more now the importance of the family and why we should be living the way we're taught. Just because we've done, um, sorry, she bonked her head. Because in this class, we've done a lot of research about things that are attacking the family and what we can do to be the voice of righteousness, even during those attacks on the family. So I think I understand more now, why the proclamation was written and what we can do to be a voice of righteousness. Yeah.
Very nice. So mine was more of it's okay to bring in religion with everything, because mine was like in the beginning I was like, well, if you're doing something with, I don't even know, vaccinations or something, I don't even, just anything, I'm like, you can't pull religion in because that's just how our world has, it's like if you pull in religion, then you're not with the majority, anyway, so like she pulled religion into every single one of our lessons, and like a lot of times she had like a talk for one thing and then just like an opposing view that wasn't a talk, but she, found stuff that had religion in it, and so that's kind of how my thoughts have changed. Like it's okay to bring religion into things, and it's okay to say that's why you believe what you believe is because of religion, not just this is what I think, but have the reason being religion.
Yeah, I think that's great. All right, the last one. Picture your spouse and children, current or future, and write down some thoughts about how they'll benefit from you taking this class. So I put that one way they can benefit from taking this class is because I now understand so much more about the way Satan is attacking the family. With that information, I can better protect my family from those attacks. Because I think you have to understand the opposing side in order to better know what to do on your side. And another thing that can benefit them is that I can be an example to them by being an advocate myself. If I'm an advocate for the family, they'll understand the importance of also being an advocate for themselves. And I know more now about how important the family is, and I can teach that to my children so that they can understand the importance of, stand up for families as well. So I just, had those couple things, but yeah.
Very nice. So my things were, you were a little bit muffled in half of it, but I think I heard you talk about protecting your family, and I said that too. But going along more with protecting your family is you have the right to stand up for your family. I thought of that story with the lady, and during this whole thing was, I think she was in like Costa Vida or something random like that, and she was just saying that like something on the TV that like the people at Costa Vida had made, like their like own little channel or whatever. And she didn't think it was appropriate to be at a family restaurant, and so she like stood up for her family and other families and was like, no, this shouldn't be showing on the TV. And it was kind of more just like you have the right to stand up for your family, and it doesn't need to be some big, huge, grand, dramatic government thing. Like, it can be a local thing too, but you have the right to stand up for your family and what you believe and what they believe. So, yes,
Awesome.
we finished.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for meeting.
Yes, thank you. So
Last.
just to make sure, you just submit this YouTube thing, right? And then that's it?
Yeah, so she gave us options. She said I could either just email it to her or email it to you guys and you can put it with some submission, but I'm not sure what submission was she was talking about, like what assignment submission. So I was like, oh, I can just email it to her. I'll just email it to her, you know, right after this is over. So, yeah.
Okay. I feel like, what is it? I feel like we had to do like a peer review or something like that.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
My computer's not loading right now to pull it up. I don't know. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I was trying to like look before you left. We can just email each other.
Oh, no, you're
We'll
fine.
just that other email. So yeah, and we'll just
Okay.
yeah. It's a,
Well, I'll email you the link to this just in case. And you can submit it with your peer review, and I'll submit it with mine. And I can also email it to her just so we make sure she gets it.
okay, that
Yeah.
works.
I'll go ahead and email the link to this.
Thank you, and you have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too. Bye.